I know I've talked about this before, but I'm pretty wired, and I need something to fall asleep to. Hey guys, MasakoX here. It's been about a year or so, if not more, since we dedicated some time towards one of the lead antagonists of the Tournament of Power. Or at least the lead that we got in the end. It is Haverok and I's belief that we were meant to have a different sort of ending that we got in Super. But things then got sped up, needing to kind of end it sooner than it was supposed to be. Something chronic around episode 125. Something felt a little bit off by that episode. It just suddenly went into overdrive. Maybe I'll do a video on that one of these days if we get more clues. Either way, the character that gets the honor of being the top banana of people to face off against Goku was that of Jiren the Grey, the backbone of Universe 11's Pride Troopers. You know, regardless of what we've been saying about Super since we started making videos on the matter on this very channel, like nearly 3 years ago, people seem to have found some sort of fond memories for its antagonists, in some way. Looking through rose-tinted spectacles. Now that one can look back and remind ourselves of why we tuned in the first place. Hindsight being 2020 and all, we can sort of forgive some of the quirks that Super had nowadays, or maybe not remember our originally raw first opinions. When Super was still coming out, we were, Haverok and I, really harsh on Zamasu and Goku Black. But it seems like now that they've grown on us, now that we've actually had some time to think on the matter and really dig deep into how the manga and the anime dealt with these characters. I mean, maybe Dragon Ball FighterZ had something to do with it as well, but, that's not the point of this video. Granted, the baddies and opponents in Super are nowhere near as beloved or as, iconic as the ones from Z or even the original series, or maybe in some cases GT. I mean, they can't be, at least to us older fans. I mean, who knows with the younger ones or those who are just getting into the series right now. But whatever status these personas possessed, their mere existence in the show was acknowledged by the community. I mean, take a look at Haverok. He's assumed the mantle of being the champion for Bororetta. The pants of a giant robot from Universe 3. I mean, if we didn't talk about Bororetta, who would? Everybody has a favorite extra from the Tournament of Power. The community has been quite welcoming of them. That is, except for Jiren. Hold on a second here before you start typing. Yes, Jiren is not unpopular. He, like other characters in Dragon Ball Super, also has a fair share of fans. And I get why he might. He is the embodiment of pure strength, and that is a very, very big reason why a lot of people like Dragon Ball Z. Just the immense exhibition of power! I get that. And I think Jiren's a way for Toriyama and Toyotaro to subvert the little alien stereotype that we've had since the days of Roswell. I mean, think about it. All of those pictures you see of aliens, they're little scrawny grey men, really kinky, like really, really stick thin arms. Nah, let's make this guy a beefcake! It's actually kind of funny when you have time to muse on the matter. I hadn't really thought about it prior to this video. It's just classic Toriyama subversion again. But despite this revelation, we feel that he's most often the butt of audiences' jokes. The well-toned and clothed butt. And it's all to do with how boring and bland the rest of him can be most of the time that we see him on screen. Especially in the first couple of dozen episodes. All of that mystique was just kind of muddled and lost. That being said, the Tournament of Power is now all said and done, and we have to move forward. Jiren's initial time with us is at an end, and where we go from here to try and help move Jiren forward is up to us. And try and make him cooler in future installments. That's what the writers have to do as well. Try and build upon what they've done. We've talked about the long list of problems with Jiren, starting up with him simply overstaying his welcome through disappointing motivation, ending up with a pretty, generic fighting style, and a lack of change during the saga, representing absolute strength, and that's it. El Hermano was better. Points if you understood that reference. Another thing that popped into our heads that we would have loved to have seen added is, him playing a similar role to Hit, a harsh, powerful rival from another universe. However, as we were writing this discussion, I remembered an article that came out just before the series was about to finish in Japan, around about March 2018, where the producer and director of the series, Dragon Ball Super, sat down and talked about what their thoughts were of the Tournament of Power as it was coming to an end, as well as what their relationship with Akira Toriyama was like. I'll leave a link to it in the description if you're interested, even though it's in Japanese. In it talks about the Pride Troopers a fair bit, and according to Ryota Nakamura, the director of Super for the Universe Survival Arc, Jiren was one of the first characters that the team came up with that sprung to mind, and especially when Akira Toriyama designed the original character. Okay, fair start. But things began to get a little curious as we go further in the article. In Dragon Ball Super, Toriyama provides very basic notes, and most of these are bullet points, and both the anime and manga departments have to try and reach the same conclusion, albeit in their own ways and interpretations. That's why the anime and manga have differed quite a fair bit in places. There were no notes about how Jiren talked from Toriyama, and what his overall personality was. He was a blank slate. Okay. The anime team have experience in making character personas. They got many years worth of experience, and also they had the experience because they had to try and make nearly 80 characters jump off the design sheets after all and actually be distinctive. You know, they were doing it, so what's wrong with doing another one? And they originally gave Jiren a quite noble and chatty vibe. Jiren was thought to be the one that Goku would face, and him having quite the talkative edge would have reminded me actually of Perfect Cell, having that dynamic wit and charisma and being engaging, and that would have been a nice way to pay homage to the likes of Cell. That time in the Cell games was pretty special. Shame it didn't come to pass. Toriyama figuratively threw their ideas in the trash and just said that, no, Jiren's a character who doesn't speak. Ah, okay, the strong and silent type. Huh. All of that work for nothing. And, oh yeah, Toriyama says, give him Batman's backstory. I mean, okay, that was me paraphrasing, but you know where I'm going with this. It's so like Batman's backstory. So all of the work the team had done, they, instead of just throwing it away, they just shifted it onto Toppo. So if you want an idea about how Jiren was originally meant to be, you only have to look at Toppo. And I love Toppo. Dang man, that's a real shame, missed opportunity. I mean, at least we got Toppo. There's some crumb of comfort there. But what I'm getting at here is that the anime team sort of lost their drive and edge with Jiren to try and do anything original, putting their heart and soul into the character. You know, just seeing their work being thrown out like that. So just, right now with Jiren, just do what Toriyama says and then just clock out early. Yeah, whatever. So remember that we were recalling about what we thought about Hit? The way Hit was introduced worked so much better than when Jiren was introduced, because Hit is brought into the world to us as this uncaring, professional assassin who uses powers like we've never seen before in Dragon Ball. That is if you don't count Goldo. But from as soon as we see Hit, we can realize that this guy has layers. He is silent, sure, but he comes off as intimidating, and his job is so cool. And when we start to think that there's nothing to him, he gives us these flickers of personality that keep us interested and engaged with him. And then when he goes all out on Frost, we realize that he isn't the baddie here, that he has a sense of fair play and honor, that he feels confident enough to stand against Champa's wishes in order to make sure that everything will work out fair and square. You see, Jiren, you can have your moral code and still be cool. Hit also has a dry sense of humor, and yet he holds a sense, an idea of mercy, despite his job implying that he has to be ruthless. He doesn't have to be. He could have easily toyed with Monaka and be callous with him, but yet he wasn't. He gave the guy a break and let him take the glory of winning the tournament. I mean, hey, Monaka got a lot of gold out of it, so Hit's got to have some kind of generosity or mercy. And then when we watched Hit during the Tournament of Power, we can see that there is a heart of a caring leader behind that whole inaccessible personality at first glance. Despite his disobedience of Champa's order in the Universe 6 saga, he still got given the title of Universe 6 captain by Champa, because despite the situation, Champa knows that he has the standard and skills to lead a team to victory, or at least keep them in for as long as possible. Hit was a character who was done right, and who many fans prefer over Jiren when it comes to the best renegade or tough guy out there to face off against the likes of Goku. With Jiren, there is a problem. The problem is that we are told that he is a mighty hero, and that he is a noble person with moral fiber, and the right guy to lead Universe 7 into battle, and save the galaxies time and time again. That's just it. Like Totally Not Mark sometimes points out in his videos, you should really check them out, we don't find out, nor do we figure out all of that on our own to have that sense of satisfaction. We are just forced to believe it, and it takes the fun out of it. Jiren is a hero! Okay. He is one cool guy! Alright. We mean it! He could beat Goku! Alright, show us then. He doesn't want to show— oh, come on! This goes on for a long time, with Jiren not wanting to get involved. We only find out later that it's about not agreeing with the tournament in principle. But it's not super clear for us to infer. We are again told this. But when we get the true reveal, we realize that what we were told wasn't what we thought. It turns out that Jiren's kind of petty and basic with a generic origin story. Hardly worth the hype. In my original video on the matter last March, I said that Jiren's backstory could have been so much more. That maybe his power was so mighty that he couldn't control it as a child, and it led him to inadvertently destroying his people and leaving him the only one, left all alone in life. That is until Toppo would have taken him in and given him the power to control his skills, as well as a team and a family, giving him purpose to ensure that he can use his powers for good. Give his life meaning. Now there. Doesn't that sound already much better than what we got? Prior to us finding out Jiren's origins in episode 127, we didn't have many reasons to connect with him. And then after the reveal, we felt nothing extra. Nothing changed. Some of us just thought, well, it's Batman. It's kind of ironic actually, as his whole thing was not to connect with people. Well, mission accomplished there, Jiren buddy. His whole shtick could work in a greater way, had his generic past been sold to us in a more polished manner, with more time to do so rather than just the couple of minutes that we got. Maybe half an episode would have been enough. I mean, after all, Jiren is supposed to be the antagonist here. He's not just one episodic baddie, he's the focus impeding Universe 7's goal. He deserves for his story to be told. He's earned it. Jiren is written as an anti-type of character, such as Superman and Captain America. These guys typically have surprisingly little exploration of their more heroic sides. They're too iconic, and I've talked about icons before, they can't be changed too much. These two are challenging to write for in an engaging way, because of just how gosh darn good they are. There's only so much you can do with them before you end up going too far, and people then suddenly go, well, that's not Cap, or Superman wouldn't do that. It gets to the point when they may appear boring and unrelatable to the audience because, you can't do much with them. And then you have to fight another battle with the audience if you get it wrong. It's not a lost cause though. We can connect with them in their most vulnerable moments, when they get things wrong. When they do something humanistic, when they make mistakes. Realizing that this supposed perfect being isn't as perfect as we think, that they have flaws, it makes us think, oh, dude, it's okay, things happen. You show empathy without realizing it, and therefore, you've got a connection, the connection is made, and therefore, you stick by them. And while we saw Jiren getting an upper hand over Goku and the rest of the gang after Toppo gave him his support, it didn't feel earned. Like, it was meant to happen. And Jiren really didn't have to do anything except not be eliminated. We are now aware that Jiren is literally the grey character on the good-evil spectrum. He's just there. But due to the lack of complex narratives for him, which are not the staple of Dragon Ball, I will give you that, he comes across as bland. So where can we go with this? Well, first, we should get more insight into that backstory. We know it's generic, sure. It has been made years ago, not only by Batman, but by many hero stories and origin stories before Batman. But that's not the main issue at play. The presentation of said backstory for Jiren just didn't help matters at all. It was rushed. We had to wait for the manga to come along to try and get a little bit more information, and it wasn't that much. We now know from the manga that Jiren's master, Gichin, was offed by a demon, and that he cannot be brought back by an angel. There's just no way that Gichin can be booped back into existence like Frieza was with Whis. So maybe next time Toei starts to think about reintroducing Jiren, they should show us the relationship that he had with his master. Give us a whole flashback episode to show how this man defined Jiren and made him as powerful as he is. See more of Jiren when he was either a young kid or when he was finding his feet and learning his craft. Identify with him when he was attaining absolute strength, when he didn't have it fully, when he was not perfect. Not when he already had it and we had to just accept it. Even an old boring cliche can be used in a clever way, if you allow the audience to connect with the character and understand them, not, just keep them at a distance. Show his newly found connection with the Pride Troopers, his own team. Him trying to get their trust again. For the longest time, Jiren was accepted by his team, but they barely saw him. Him deciding to meditate off in a corner somewhere and rarely ever step out of his own head. Thusly, even though they were teammates of his, they didn't feel like a team around him. Toppo and Dispo were like the two keeping the team motivated about how Jiren wasn't playing along with them and not representing the Pride Troopers fully. Also, give Jiren a more mellowed out personality, showing us that Goku has made an influence on him. Like with Hit, and pretty much most of the Dragon Ball lineup that's come into contact with Goku. You could do a lot with him regaining a simple sense of pleasure in helping out others, It's not all about absolute strength anymore. It doesn't have to be. Doing little things like we witnessed with Casserole, getting cats out of space trees. And that's another one of the problems. Some of the other troopers that we barely saw were shown in a much more interesting way than Jiren, and they barely got featured. And unlike Hit, he revealed all of his secrets in the Tournament of Power. We know Jiren now, so there isn't a lot more to discover, but there is a lot that can change, and I want to believe that something can be done with Jiren. Something that can at least make him a passable friendly rival to Goku and Vegeta. After all, we spoke about the connection between the two, and I'm pretty sure that the Grey and the Prince working together, that could result in a very interesting storyline. I mean, after all, Vegeta has been all about strength and pride for a majority of his early life. He's one of the best qualified characters to help Jiren transition into a new stage of his life. And despite of what we might think and see at first glance, there are areas of potential that can make Jiren work. I feel that he might become a much better ally than an enemy, since due to the time slot, Toei could never dedicate themselves to write Jiren as a darker anti-Superman, which resulted in us getting a weird in-between kind of mishmash. But, we'd like to believe that the writers and characters can get better deals and really get their just desserts, and in the right hands, maybe, one day, we will be able to witness Jiren's return, and then thus nodding in agreement saying, well, that was cool. So what do you guys think? Might we see Jiren make a better impact the next time that we see him in Dragon Ball Super? Or do you think that that's just enough and instead we look to making other characters and pushing them to the foreground? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!